konnichiwa, 안녕하세요. Hi, this is Nihangogin. What's good, my weeaboos? So today I'll be teaching you the most essential parts to make a sentence in Japanese. Um, Forgive me if I sound weird. I have my retainers on and I could lisp a little bit, but anyways, there are three components to making a sentence or a basic sentence in Japanese. I'll be going over one, watashi, watashi. Two, wa, wa. And three, des, des. Before we continue, I strongly recommend you feel comfortable and familiar with already the consonants and vowels of Japanese. There's no way around it. The best way to memorize it if you just look at a chart, write it a million times or however you can memorize it and identify it and understand what word sounds come out of each consonant or vowel, then you could start making basic sentences and reading simple Japanese hiragana or kana. Don't forget, katakana is also important, which is the foreign alphabet for Japanese. Starting off with watashi. 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 That is literally I in Japanese. And this is the kanji. The kanji, it's important to memorize kanji, but we will focus on how to read kanji in another video. But just know that this is the kanji. This equals I, or watashi. A pretty common word in Japanese, especially in Japanese formal speaking. You would hear probably in anime boku wa or ore wa or any of those words, but they all mean the same thing. It's just about formality. As I mentioned, I will only be teaching more formal or more everyday language that's from book. The second component I'd like to just jump into is this particle. Does this look familiar to you guys? It should. This is the consonant ha. Ha. But it is not ha. It is actually pronounced just like this consonant wa. Wa. But we just say that ha is wa and just accept it as is. I actually don't even know myself why wa is pronounced as that way, but this is a very important topic marking particle, and this will definitely be used in practically almost any basic sentence. Now, how wa works is when you look at this, you want to focus the topic after when you use the word wa. I'll explain when we use example sentences in a bit. Let's just finish the components, and then I'd like to make these examples because we'll be using all three examples. Lastly, des. Des. This is a verb that typically means the word it is. It's best to just call it is because it'll make so much sense when you're translating. But just trust me when you see it. It means to be it is. Des. Des. The other way you'd like to also look at this is a period. Think of it as almost a period. Like the end of the sentence, period. Or des, it is. Now, if we put all of this together, we can already introduce ourselves. And this is the probably the first thing you almost always do in a Japanese class that you would take or read. To introduce yourself or say, I am your name. So, for my case, I am Mark. I am Mark. before we start, I need to explain the sentence structure in Japanese. It's very opposite to English if you guys are familiar with the English, um, making English sentences. Typically, it starts off as topic, verb, and subject. So, for example, I am Mark again. So, I is the topic. We're talking about me. Am is the verb. The verb. And that's because it shows status. It shows that who is being something. So I am, and Mark is the subject. So am Mark being the verb is doing something to the subject, which is me as Mark. So in Japanese, though, it is the opposite. Um, the tip, just like in Korean too, is that I want you guys to always highlight. Verb is always last. A verb is always last. For my case, that would be watashi wa maku desu. Watashi wa maku desu. In Japanese, looking at the comparison, watashi is the topic, wa is highlighting the word after, so highlighting subject, the subject, so you know what the topic marker is, and des. Des is a verb. That's the verb. And knowing this, subject is always first, and verb is always last. Typically always last. Now, in between English, a verb could almost be anywhere, but typically it's before the subject because the verb is doing something to the subject. So, in total, I am Mark is watashi wa maku desu. Watashi wa maku desu. So, for more example sentences, I would like to say something like this is a pen. This is a pen. Now, in Japanese, how would you say this? Yes, so it is kore. Kore. To say is, like I mentioned, you use the topic marking particle, which is wa. Wa. So this, kore wa, this is, how do you say pen? Pretty simple. Pen. Pen. And to finish the sentence, you want to say des. Des. That is the verb. Now, you might be a little confused thinking in English, isn't is the verb? Yes, that is correct. Is the verb. You'd want to think wa, wouldn't you say wa would be the verb? Or this topic marking particle? But think of this topic marking particle as the new formula to a sentence. It cannot stand on its own, wa. Wa, like I said, highlights pen. It literally is talking, it's marking that this is the topic of the sentence, pen. So saying this is a pen, nothing is important but the pen. Specifically looking at, hey, this is the pen. Kore wa pen desu. That's literally how it sounds. You're not necessarily trying to bring the emphasis, but that's literally what it's emphasizing, that this is the topic of the sentence, pen. So when you say kore wa, like You're literally saying this, this, like that. This is a pen. これはペンです。これはペンです. Now, for books, using the same formula, これは、です. Would anyone know how to say book? It is 本. So, same formula. これは本です。これは本です. So, literally, this book it is. This is a book. Now, I strongly recommend, in terms of translation, as a tip for learning a new language, is to be able to separate your Japanese brain and English brain because they're different languages and you want to almost look at it as like a formula that X is Y and Y is X. And you'll be able to differentiate how they can be equal. Now, saying the most common phrase, これはペンです. So we do know it says this is a pen. But in literal translation, I would like you to think of it and break it down as this is pen, it is. This is pen, it is. When you do that and break it down from reading the Japanese sentence, you'll be able to break it down and automatically translate it to your native language, or in English, this is a pen. Because when you get bigger sentences, so when you get bigger sentences, it'll be easier to translate it in your head because as you're saying it, this is pen, it is, this is a pen, while you're reading to the next sentence, and so on and so forth, you'll be able to quickly just pick up that they're saying this is a pen, and just separating it and just not jumping to this is a pen will make your brain um, reorganize it in literal translation, which is strongly what I recommend. That's about it. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. This is a work in progress. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. I really hope this really helped someone. Thank you so much for watching. Uh, This is basically how you start off. Knowing just these particles can make you say a lot of things like これは携帯です or それは何ですか? Oh, ointment des. So there's a lot of things you could start making basic sentences with just knowing these components. I'd like to thank you so much for your time again. I hope you learned something. If you guys have any questions, always feel free to message on the comments or go on the Discord and always ask your Japanese questions because I'm sure we're all learning and we all have different paces. So, 頑張ってね. Arigatou gozaimasu. じゃあね.